Belief and politics of Roman Republic, Empire. Rome grew from a collection of hilltop villages to a city that covered nearly 500 square miles and eventually grew into an empire covering southwestern South Europe and northern Africa. Various kings ordered the construction of Rome's first temples and public centers such as the Forum, the heart of Roman political life. The last king was Tarquin the Proud. After Tarquin being driven from power in 509 BC, the Romans declared that they would never be ruled by a king again. Instead, they established a republic, which meant that power rests in citizens which had the right to vote for their leaders. Since power rested in citizens, groups struggled for power. One group were the patricians, which were the wealthy landowners who held most of the power. They were said to inherit their power from ancestry and that their ancestry gave them authority to make laws from Rome. The other important group was plebeians. The plebeians were made up of farmers, artisans, merchants, which made up most of the population. They were citizens with the right to vote, but they were stopped by law from holding most important government positions. Also, creating a written law code was an important victory because with laws unwritten, patrician officials often interpreted the law to suit themselves. In 451 BC, a group of 10 officials began writing down Rome's laws. These laws were carved on 12 tables and hung in the Forum. These 12 tables established the idea that all free citizens had a right to the protection of the law. Rome eventually started to brag to other empires that Rome had achieved a balanced government, which meant their government had taken the best features of a monarchy, an aristocracy, and a democracy. Rome had 2 officials called consuls. Like kings, they commanded the army and directed the government. However, their power was limited. A consul's term was only 1 year long and they could not be elected consul again for 10 years. The government was in 2 branches, the aristocratic branch and the democratic branch. The Senate was the aristocratic branch of Rome's government. It had both legislative and administrative function in the Republic. Its 300 members were chosen from the upper class of Roman society. Later, plebeians were allowed in the Senate. The Senate was great influence over both foreign and domestic policy. The assemblies represented the more democratic side of the government. An assembly organized by the plebeians, the tribal assembly, elected the tribunes and made laws for the common people and eventually for the republic itself. In times of crisis, the republic could appoint a dictator, a leader who had absolute power to make laws and command the army. Dictators were chosen by the consuls and then elected by the Senate. In addition to their government, the Romans placed great value on their military. All citizens who owned land were required to serve in the army. Seekers of certain public offices had to perform 10 years of military service. The military organization and fighting skill of the Roman army were key factors to Rome's rise to greatness. After he conquered all of Rome, Caesar governed Rome as an absolute ruler, one who has total power. However, he started a number of reforms. He granted Roman citizenship to many people in the provinces. In addition, he expanded the Senate, adding his friends and supporters from Italy and other regions. He also helped the poor by creating jobs, especially through the construction of new public buildings. Eventually people started concerning over Caesar's growing power and popularity and senators stabbed him to death in the Senate chamber. After Caesar died, the Romans broke out into civil war again, but 3 supports banded together to crush the assassins. Gaius Octavius, Marcus Antonius, and Marcus Aemilius. Those 3 became the Second Triumvirate. Their alliance eventually ended in jealousy and violence. Another civil war broke out after a rumor stating that after Mark Antony fell in love with Cleopatra and followed her to Egypt, he was going to try to rule Rome from Egypt. Eventually Octavian won the war and was accepted with the title of Augustus, and Rome became an empire ruled by one man. The Romans held their vast empire together in part through efficient government and able rulers and their military. Even after Augustus died, the system of government that he established maintained the empire's stability.